All right, next up we have Nadiem Sassuno. Give him a welcome.
Yeah, hi, great to be here. Waiting for, great, yeah. My name is Nadiem. I'm part of Mentor Labs. We're working on Mentor. It's a stablecoin on Cello. We have been around, since the start because CUSD, which is the dollar-pegged stable, was on Cello, very much from the launch in 2020. I'm in the space of markets for a long time. I worked in banking before, so I had a lot of experience with market dynamics, whether this is on, I don't know, risk side, whether this is the pricing side. And what I'm going to talk about is pretty much around this. I mean, the title is a bit edgy and big, sorry for that. I want to touch a mantra that is like very essential to blockchain, which is the idea of removing intermediaries by a system where people can transact directly with each other. Just two random quotes. I mean, one a bit more indirect, the other one directly talking about the disintermediation of middlemen. But let's have a look at intermediaries in the space of stablecoins. So let's assume we have a stablecoin issuer and we have a consumer on the other side. So what kind of intermediaries do we have? I simplified and probably I missed a few, but I think the most important ones are brokers or OTC desks, market makers, and RAM providers. The consumer usually interacts with brokers and RAM providers directly. He doesn't have any contact with market makers, but he is in contact with them via a retailer, which is a centralized exchange or a DEX. We know there is a lot of negative feelings against intermediaries. But I mean, let's try to understand what they are doing actually. And if you look at the services that intermediaries are providing, then we can see they are actually doing quite important things. So if you look at the market maker, the role in the system is a bit like the wholesaler. I mean, he's providing liquidity in the markets, of course. But this entails more. It also entails to narrow the spreads between the bid price and the ask price because, absorbing imbalances. So what a market maker is doing if he's expecting some selling pressure or buying pressure, he's adjusting liquidity. And in the end, this leads to price stabilization because, and this is happening in crypto a lot, if you look at the order books, sometimes they're very thin and then the price starts to jump very erratically. And this comes from a bad market maker or no market maker. Then looking at brokers and OTC desks, they have a bit of a mixed role. They have wholesalers and retailers at the same time. And if you look at their roles, usually what they're doing, they are enabling less liquid markets. So if you have a partner that would like to trade your token, usually they don't know how to reach your token, then they will contact a broker or an OTC desk. And in terms of services, it's more like a convenience service. I mean, it's important, but it's less important, I would say, than the market maker. Then you have RAMs. They are definitely retailers. And what is the service that they're providing? They are providing crypto fiat conversion. Similar to centralized exchanges, but they're doing more. So they are providing a KYC as a service. They are providing fiat transfers, and they provide fiat price market making. Because, if you consider decentralized exchanges, they can only provide you a crypto price. But we want, because I mean, we live in a world in which fiat prices are important, and it will be for some time that they are important. We need someone to make the price for our assets in fiat. And then the last one it's not an intermediary in the sense of the other four, but we need arbitrageurs. Because someone has to make sure that all the prices across the different places have to be consistent. And what I like to think about arbitrage and the service that they provide, it's a bit like a consensus mechanism. It's like you have these arbitrageurs and they are kind of agreeing on one price. And if they fail, and in crypto it happens a lot that you have a different price on Binance than you have on Coinbase because of some like local, I don't know, Binance stops withdrawals for one coin, or Coinbase US, Binance US recently stopped the deposits and withdrawals, and then the price changes. It's not a wrong price, it's just a local temporary price. And the arbitrageurs don't manage to come to a consensus about what the price is. So why are they so important? And the big word is market efficiency. What does it mean, market efficiency? I mean, it means that the buy and the sell prices, so the bid and the asks, should be close, because if you have to pay, if there's a big spread between the buy and the sell price, you will not have a lot of transactions, because every time you buy and sell, you will lose the spread between the two prices. So people will not do a transaction. And for stables, this is really important, because, I mean, stables are supposed to be a medium of transfer. So no one is going to transfer if you have like a wide spread. Then the price convergence across different marketplaces. Just imagine you would live in a street, there's this grocery store up the street and down the street. One is selling butter for 5 euros, the other one for 2. Okay, you would buy for 2, but you would be puzzled and you would think, what's wrong here? I mean, there's something unsettling in this scenario of having two stores that have a very different price. Then there is the independence of the traded amount. I mean, you don't want to see what is also called slippage. You don't want, if you buy twice the amount, 3 times the amount, you don't want to have a massive slippage. And also this is something that the intermediaries are providing for you. And the last thing is availability. You want to be able to have a convenient access to your goods. This is also something that the intermediaries are doing. And as a result of all of what they're doing, you gain trust in the system. And this is something very important. I mean, blockchain is all about trust. The thing is, intermediaries are creating trust in the financial system and the market because of all these things that they are doing. But why do we want to replace them? And there's also good reasons for that. I mean, the first thing is, to perform their services, intermediaries are granted significant privileges. Like, if you look at, for example, at Tether or Circle, intermediaries in this setup, they have the right to issue and redeem, and it's a crazy privilege. I mean, if you're like a standard user, you're not able to go to Tether or Circle and redeem your coins. So, and there are many more examples of these privileges. And because of these privileges, if they are like misbehaving, the effect is massive. And this is what basically caused all the resentment that we have towards these intermediaries. I mean, the distrust comes from like a history of these intermediaries abusing their privileges. And then a last point, and this also touches the first point that I mentioned, just think about Tether or Circle. If you want to redeem your coin in case of a DPEG, you will not be able to, because you have to go to the market, you will have to pay the market price. Only the institutional will be able to go to the Tether company, the Circle company, and redeem one-to-one. So this is, I think, really important for stablecoin projects that basically want to offer redemption and issuance at the promised price. So let me have my mouth is really dry. Sorry. So here's just a big list, probably longer, of all the things that can go wrong around intermediaries. There is transparency, of course. There is additional costs that come through the intermediary services. There is gatekeeping that is happening because the intermediaries are kind of creating a monopoly. There's lack of control of the user. I mean, we all know this, like inefficiencies, delays, single point of failure, and of course, there's fraud and misconduct. So, like, there are two sides. There's one side, they are really important. On the other side, they can really fuck up our systems. I mean, as we have seen. So how is this mitigated in traditional markets? In traditional markets, we are adding two components. One component, I mean, it is law and regulation. So we're basically adding contracts between the issuer and all the intermediaries. And we are adding regulation to protect the consumer. So what we're creating is kind of a legal embedding of the intermediaries. So law and regulation is embedding these centralized intermediaries, and what we are increasing is transparency, control, and commitment if everything works well. So this is kind of the positive view on regulation. Just imagine it as, really an embedding that should, kind of make the intermediaries safer. And now we are jumping a little bit. I mean, we have been talking intermediaries, but this topic of intermediation is linked to another topic, which is distribution of goods. So if you're like in the traditional business, there is this idea of distributing your goods to the customer. And there is the external distribution model, and there's the direct distribution model. And the external distribution model could be defined by saying that it is relying on intermediaries to get the goods to the user. In our case, it would be the stable tokens. And direct distribution, of course, would be a system where the user does not have to rely on intermediaries to get the goods. And if you look at the stable tokens that are out there, I just listed a few, and you will see that the most successful ones are externally distributed. And I mean, let's talk about why this is the case. I mean, I guess you can imagine why, or this is at least my thesis. Let's first look at the user experience with directly distributed in particular. So directly distributed stablecoins have no real ties into fiat economy. I mean, no one is connecting them with fiat. You can play around with them on chain, but it is very difficult to get them back to the reference price which they are trying to refer to. Then stablecoins are really unstable across chains. I mean, basically, you take something which is supposed to be one, and there's another one, or even if you take the native token on two chains, like you bring it to another chain, oops, it's not worth one anymore. I just lost something. Why should this happen? With the general asset, it doesn't bother you so much. I guess there's some market risk to it. But with the stable token, I think the user experience, it's really weird. Why should I use something from my stable? I mean, then there's a transparency issue. Most users are not aware of this, but I believe that the oracles are insufficient to deal with uncertainty and ownership, because this refers in particular to tokens that are backed by real-world assets. So if you look at USDC, it's in a way a real-world asset, but I think the oracle infrastructure is not up to the standard that it should be to give transparency to the user. I mean, yes, you can go to the Circle website, and yes, you can probably download a report by Deloitte or PwC, but I think we can do better than that. And then there's another point, and this is also one of the principles of blockchain. I mean, we want engagement of the user, but we have no infrastructure and no tools to allow the user to take on these services, because someone has to do them. Like, I know they are not like people despise this kind of services. Market making, yeah, it's something shady, but someone has to do it. And usually for all the other services, we say, yes, we want to empower the community to take them on. But with these kind of services, I mean, they're really crucial. We don't care. I mean, we don't provide an infrastructure that an experienced user easily can be a market maker or a RAM provider. We just think, yes, someone will take it on. And what will happen in the end is there will be a traditional company picking up the job or getting paid by a foundation to do the job. So I think what we are creating is really market inefficient stablecoins. And what happens in the end, and this is why people are using USDT and USDC, convenience trumps over consideration. It's easy to use them. They are the most market efficient. They could even be better, but they are the most market efficient, and this is why people are using them. So we have these services. They are crucial, and they are really like systemically important to our stablecoin or to even the financial system that we are imagining. And we have two solutions to this. I mean, either this is the idealist blockchain solution. Yeah, we will just build a decentralized mechanism for everything that needs to be done. But the problem is a DEX doesn't substitute a centralized exchange. It can't, because a centralized exchange is a fiat price market maker. It won't work, and it's for a lot of other services the same. And then we see the other solution of people lightheartedly just handing these important services to traditional intermediaries or removing the intermediaries. And I think this is what we are doing. We are removing the intermediaries from Mento, our stablecoin. We are removing them from Frux and so on. And what we are left is a broken stablecoin market. So I think, what do we need? There are probably more things, but these are the things that I was thinking about. And it's nothing, and I want to point this out, that I think one project on its own can stem. It's something that we as a stablecoin community or infrastructure builder community have to do together. It is first, I believe, we have to create supply chain tooling. Because, I mean, we have been talking about a direct distribution model. If we want to have a direct distribution model, we need tools to allow people to go to their app and convert fiat to stable directly. Yes, you can do this right now. You can go to Binance, you can put your money there, then you can transfer it to Binance chain, you can transfer it to another token, bridge it over to the, I mean, come on, this is not how it should be. I mean, this is ridiculous. And so we need a good UI that is like seamless. Like, we should have SDKs that allow users to directly swap from fiat to the stable that they want to go through. Enter the keys, connect the ledger, enter your APIs, but then you can just shoot and you have your stables. And then we have to think broader about what stable coins are actually. Like, they are, I think, a protocol. It's like, they are a value protocol. So like, let's say you have two chains. You have Ethereum and you have Celo. If there's a stable on Celo and there's another stable on Ethereum, what is the promise of these stables? It is, there's a reference value and our token is worth somewhere around this reference. And for the user, it is just a way to transfer value from one chain to another and be sure that he's not using due to market risk. It shouldn't be the problem of the user to deal with the losses. It is our task of a stablecoin protocol. If we are promising we are creating a stable, then we have to deal with how do we transfer the stable from CUSD to USDC. And it should be one-to-one in the wallet of the user. And this is what I mean with the value transfer protocol. I mean, we are transferring value from one chain to another. We can do this through Bitcoin and others. But there's always market risk. So I think a standard for value transfer this is what the stable actually is. Like, I want to transfer value from one place to another and do this in a standardized way. Then, yeah, transparency. I think we need more general oracles that are again, also standardized. They have to be able to deal with uncertainty. For example, cases like Binance has a different price than Coinbase. Right now, the Oracle either stops reporting or the Oracle is reporting an average price. Both is wrong in my opinion. What the Oracle should report is a price and a certainty score, which tells the user, you know what, I can calculate the price right now, but to be honest, it's very uncertain that this price is true, which would reflect the market reality much more. And we need to create relations between, in the terms of real-world assets and the token, meaning we have one-directional oracles. So proof of reserve is going one way. It's proving to the user that the assets are existing. But we also need the other way around. We need, if someone is trying to sell an asset that is used to collateralize a stable, this should only be possible if the corresponding token is burned. So we need to find a framework where the real-world assets, the states of the real-world assets and the on-chain assets are much more linked in a more inextricable way. And then, when we come to engagement, we need tooling that allows users to become service providers. So if we don't want traditional finance companies to pick up all these crucial roles, we need to provide the tools that someone in our community who is experienced can pick this up easily. Yes, there are licenses, and I agree, someone has to go for them, but I think if we take the hurdle of the technical hurdle, people will step up and maybe buy licenses. And another point, if we are talking about engagement, I mean, these days, a lot of these crucial services are just solved by loose incentivation, like arbitrages. Yeah, you can take the arbitrage, and probably someone will. I can tell you cases in the last 3 years of CUSD where people actually didn't, because there were better incentives. So I think if you have these crucial services, you need commitment. You need actors that have to perform these services in disregard of better incentives or not. So I think we have to embed these services in a way that we are dealing with the consensus mechanism. We have to set up a committed incentivation scheme that we are already using for consensus. So just to summarize all of this, I think we need standards, and this is something that only we as a industry can do together for collateral, oracles, intermediaries, and for value. And I want to touch on the last thing that I think is really important, and then it closes the loop to how the talk started with centralized intermediaries. I think we need to think about something that I would call a decentralized intermediary. It is like a hybrid state of an intermediary. It's already existing in a way, if you want, for oracles, but of course, to include these services, you have to go a step further. So for me, a decentralized intermediary is it's a hybrid entity that is kind of bridging the interface between real world and on-chain, of course. And what it has to do, it has to lock all the transaction that it's doing. Just think about a broker that is acting on behalf of a client. All the transactions that he's doing at the centralized exchange, they have to be logged, and he has to download them on-chain. Then we have a verification step. All these events are checked and cross-checked against market prices, against the order book. This can all happen on-chain. That also allows some sort of programmability, because we are all about, I want to make these things programmable. Yes, I think we can even make these intermediaries programmable. I mean, we can embed them in smart contracts, and then someone can interact with these intermediaries, potentially after KYC, through smart contracts. And then the fifth requirement, I think, is to yeah, to allow community to govern the services of decentralized intermediary, in the sense that if we notice that the broker is misbehaving, charging too much, failing, and getting a lot of unverified transactions, we remove him and maybe we slash him. And if this works for some time, we will end up with a system of intermediaries that have behaved trustworthy in the past. And I think the benefit for the user is massive, because then he has this kind of web of intermediaries that the protocol has selected and that he can trust. And then I think there is a phase 2. And this now relates to what I talked about, linking the state on-chain and off-chain. I think this is much more work, and it's much more complicated, because it also involves creating a legal framework that would allow us to do. But just imagine you are a real-world tokenizer, and instead of creating an SPV somewhere in Hong Kong or Singapore, putting your assets there and then just launching a token, you would have to set up a trust. And this trust has 10 trustees. And these trustees don't belong to your company. And similar to a multisig, a transaction of the funds that are in the trust can only happen if 5 out of 10 trustees agree. Plus, they can only happen if, after checking on-chain, it is clear that the funds are not used as collateral for tokens that are existing on-chain. So you're creating a hook between the assets off-chain and what is stored as information on-chain. And just to finish, here is an example of how a broker could look like. And I can show you later, like, I have been experimenting with some friends. We created a company that actually is doing exactly this. So how would such a flow look like? So a consumer would send, for example, Ethereum to a smart contract. We have validators that are observing this request. The smart contract is sending the request and the Ethereum to the broker or OTC desk. The broker is sending the information about the KYC that he potentially has to do with the consumer to the validators. The broker is also sending the information of the transaction to the blockchain. The validators are performing a data request to the blockchain to get the information about the transaction. They make a data request to the centralized exchange. There they can get order book data to check, for example, whether at the time of the transaction the order book was actually in a state that the price that the broker is claiming is truthful. And then the broker is performing the transaction and sending out the Bitcoin to the consumer. And what we are ending up with is a cross-chain swap through a centralized exchange that is not fully decentralized. Of course, yes, I mean, all the blue parts are not. But I think it feels much better and is much safer, much more controllable, much more transparent than what we are dealing with right now. Yeah. So here's just a list of, like a short list of the requirements that I think we need to fulfill to allow a decentralized intermediary. Yeah, transparency, logging all the states, verification, all the states have to be verified. It has to be programmable. It has to be controlled so that the community can switch off intermediaries. It has to be committed. Intermediaries have to be rewarded but also penalized. And then the last and most complicated step, we have to link off-chain states with on-chain states in both directions. Yeah, I think that's it. Thank you.